Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Amy Jacobson here. Charles Thomas in for Dan Proft. Busy day, as always, whenever you fill in. And yesterday, the Department of Justice sued the state of Maine and their governor because they're still allowing boys to play on girls' sports team. Here's AG Pam Bondi.
Biological boy won first place in the pole vaulting competition in Maine's indoor track and field meet. He beat every other girl by a significant margin. That qualified him for regional championships. That took a spot away from a young woman in women's sports. Shame on him.
And these are times in your life that you can't get back.
Yes, we will be pulling funds from Maine. Not only that, Bill, we want to restore the records of these young women. You know, these women lost records. One didn't go to regionals, one didn't go to state, all because of a boy. All of these records should be restored, not only in Maine, but around the country. Of these young women, you know, Riley Gaines started training for swimming when she was 4 years old. She made it to the Olympics. A lot of this around the country is being taken away from young women now because boys are competing in women's sports. And it's more than that. It's a safety issue. They are completely changing clothes, getting nude in young women's bathrooms. Try being the parents of these young women. It's ridiculous what they're doing. They're going in the restrooms, they're going in the locker rooms. Our young women throughout this country should not have to go through this. And under President Trump's directive, we're going to fight to keep women safe and women winning in women's sports throughout this country.
But when's it going to start? I mean, this was the best because I thought that this was President Trump's finest moment. One of them. This is when I fell in love with him again. When the governor of Maine was in his face. I mean, she was sitting down at a table, but she was so disrespectful. Like, yeah, you want a piece of me? Yeah, you come and get it.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with the state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
What a boss! I could listen to that every day and smile from ear to ear.
But why? I can't believe the governor of Maine or these other Democrat politicians.
They're not getting on board. They don't realize why they lost the election.
Exactly.
In part because of this complete wokeness and craziness. And all the Democrats did this whole time were feminists. We're fighting for women's rights. And our rights are being taken away because now it's all about trans rights. This is like the civil rights movement of 2020.
And they're doubling down on it, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Listen to this. So the governor, Mrs. Mills, this is her yesterday talking. It's only happened twice, Charles. Like, it was only 2 buildings that were taken over by Trende de Agua gang members. Only 2.
Because there are maybe 2, at most 2 transgender athletes competing in Maine schools right now, they decided to shut off funding. The law says if you don't like what a state or entity is doing over here, you can't take their funds away over here.
Yeah, it's just 2. And Pam Bondi responded, yeah.
Yeah, she's very wrong. First, to say only 2 is shocking. We gave 2 examples, but these aren't transgender. First of all, these are boys in a girl's locker room. 1 is too many. It's ridiculous what she said, and it's not just...
That's how they defend what they do. Well, it's only 2, or it's only 3, it's only 1. But it's that 1, because 1, guess what happens? You give them an inch, they take a foot.
Yeah, and why do they want to die on that hill? I mean,
I don't
why?
know. They want to die on that hill. Then there's the hill of getting this El Salvadorian gangbanger back from El Salvador, which They just choose, as you say, the wrong hills to die on. With more on this, let's welcome back to the program our very good friend, very knowledgeable, Dustin Grage. He's a columnist at Townhall.com. You can follow him on Twitter, which you should, at Grage, Grage, Dustin. Good morning, Dustin. How are you?
Good morning, Amy. How are you guys doing?
Good. So is there a similar problem in Minnesota, as I can only imagine that there is, with boys playing girls' sports?
Yes, and while maybe you guys are getting the exclusive on this, but we actually do have a male competing in women's sports right now in Minnesota. It's not very public at this point, but I have been in connection with a concerned parent who's been following this for a couple of years now, because they actually have a boy competing against their daughter in 6th grade. But there's currently a senior happening right now as well. And it's not a small school. It's a large school. So this individual has already taken at least 3 different places in 3 different events in the top 10 for their girls' sports in track and field. So they're actually climbing right now. I believe they're almost to the top on shot put already. But they're making their way up, and they actually took first place at a meet just about a week and a half ago here in the triple jump. And it's just a matter of time before this individual takes some of those records, because also these are new events they've been doing.
Right.
They didn't do these events in previous years. They weren't quite fast enough, I guess, to win a lot of meets running. But, hey, sheer strength, you can actually take some of those events. So they've actually adjusted their strategy a little bit. This is a very, very, very mediocre male.
Right.
So they're having a difficult time with it. But, this is happening, and I just brought up 2 cases where this is just one school district. It has 2 of them currently.
In one school? Is it a suburb of Minneapolis?
It isn't. It's actually in greater Minnesota.
Okay.
Near the North Dakota border. They actually had a scenario. So this is Moorhead Schools is what it is. But this is near the North Dakota border. So it actually gets to the degree where you actually have the school going to North Dakota for certain track meets, because there's not a lot of schools up there that have the competition. They have to travel a lot, like toward the metro, to have similar competition, because all the other schools up there are pretty small. So they don't actually have a lot of competition. So sometimes they cross over the border. Notice, though, what we've found out in some of this research is that individual isn't actually competing in those North Dakota meets, because North Dakota does not allow trans athletes to compete.
Oh.
So
Well, they're following federal law, but Minnesota's choosing not to.
Exactly.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but Minnesota's choosing not to follow federal law, like a lot of these blue states are doing.
Yeah, no, Tim Walz has decided to take another 2080 issue, and just like MS-13, defending MS-13 gay members, they're doing all they can to try to tank those favorables into the single digits. But we'll see if they can pull it off.
What about the raw politics of this? What do the surveys in Minnesota say about this issue?
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's better than Texas. I mean, it's maybe a 25% favorable toward the issue. We're a little bit better in that regard. Even when I was coming back through my layover in Chicago into Minneapolis last week from a trip to Florida, I actually, there was 3 people who were trans on that flight alone. So we have the trans bill where it's the sanctuary state for trans individuals. So it's more popular here. But even in the face of all of that, I mean, these issues aren't popular. They're losing across the board. Some of the biggest issues where Democrats are getting all of these phone calls into their office, it's because why the hell are you wanting boys to be on my girls' sports teams? What is wrong with you? This is the issue that's killing them in some of these competitive districts. And, yeah, it's not popular by any means. They're feeling the heat, no question about it.
Yeah, this is a wedge issue that sends a signal to the electorate about who you are as a candidate. And what can you say? You know, this is the man.
He's very clear cut on the issue, Governor Walz is. But could this bring him down if he runs again for governor?
Oh, no, it'll only help him for governor in that regard. Because just the way the state works, a lot of the time, like, you know, granted, Walz is kind of in a different category. He gets to kind of choose what he wants to do. Once he decides he wants to run for re-election or not, which I think he will, the dominoes are going to fall into place after that. People are going to have to decide what they want to do in regard to actually what office they want to run for. But Tim Walz running, he's honestly not even looking at re-election. Like, that's not his goal. He wants to run for president. And this is one of the wedge issues he's absolutely going to use to try to get elected in the primary. And now, is that going to be favorable for him in some of these swing states like Pennsylvania and Georgia? No. It's going to absolutely kill him if he actually gets on the ballot. And I pray he does get on the ballot as the Democrat in 2028. I would love J.D. Vance to be president or Ron DeSantis to be president. I would love that so much. But it's going to help them in their primaries because the Democrats love this. And not the Democrats that, you know, they're going to be voting in primary ballots necessarily, but in a lot of these caucus states, the crazies love this stuff. It's a very favorable issue to them, and they're the ones who show up to caucus. And that's going to really help you in that regard to actually becoming the nominee. So it's going to help them in that regard. But in a general election, in a larger primary, in a more conservative state, I mean, it's going to absolutely kill you as a wedge issue.
Now, they've been defending men and girls sports, the Democrats have. And now they're defending MS-13 gang members accused of human trafficking, and this guy accused of domestic violence not once but twice against his wife because she filed a order of protection against him. Why is this another hill that they're willing to die on?
You know, it's incredible. I don't think a lot of them knew initially, but it really takes balls to find out all this new information and still defend the guy and still defend this concept. And Tim Walz actually did that. He went on MSNBC and doubled down after all this stuff started coming out again. So, I mean, just looking at some of those issues, I mean, you got to just look at Tim Walz, honestly. It's like some politicians we look to, well, what's this person say? You know, they're usually right. Well, look to this guy and see who's usually wrong, because whatever stance the guy takes is literally just the new definition of the crazy left now. It's not just AOC and Ilhan Omar. Apparently, you get to just look to Tim Walz, and that's going to be your new ticket to figure out where the right and wrong side of an issue is going to be. But, you know, I'm happy that they're willing to take this dagger and put it into themselves, because, I mean, there's some times where I wonder, like, hey, maybe we're going a little off on some stuff and we're going to have some issues electorally a couple years down the line. But Democrats still find a way to double down and, you know, make themselves far, far less popular. And I'm completely okay with it. But, you know, in all honesty, just coming back to my personal experience of being swatted, at the end of the day, I think the Democrats are equally as worried about their base as I am of them thinking I'm a crazy Nazi. Right. I mean, these people sent a SWAT team to my home to try to kill me. Walz himself, I think last time I was on the program, we were talking about Walz was afraid of U.S. flags outside the governor's mansion. I mean, if that's threatening, I mean, I can't imagine what, you know, people burning down your cities out of crazy leftist ideology is going to feel. But, hey, Gwen Walz did like to smell the burning tires. So maybe I'm wrong there.
Oh, yeah.
But I have to believe that might be part of it as well.
Well, let's talk about the swatting incident that happened. Just walk us through it.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty normal day. I think we're just in the last couple of minutes of The Amazing Race watching with my wife, and she gets a dozen calls coming to her phone, and we're just like, what's going on here? I think it's just a liberal troll, because this is pretty typical in our household. This happens a lot. But turns out those dozen calls weren't trolls. It was members of law enforcement informing us that our home is being surrounded. And, and that at this point they had already thought it was a swatting, though, which is good, because the 911 caller pretending to be me thinks my wife and children are dead, and I'm in the bathroom barricading myself in from 4 masked men trying to kill me. So when my wife answers the phone, it instantly de-escalates. This is clearly a swatting incident. We were one of the more favorable outcomes of all of this. Some people, they had to have police enter their home because they called at 2 a.m. and they don't have personal relationships with their local law enforcement, so they don't have our cell phones like they do to our family. Right. We just had a phone conversation, just walked out, shook hands, and we were off on our way. But some people, they had to have their dogs wake them up, otherwise they would have been stormed in. And, the goal is ultimately to get law enforcement into the home, see the first probably male, and then shoot on sight because you think these people are trying to kill you, and they're in here trying to save your life. So it's a bad situation all around because it's not just, our lives at stake there. It's the law enforcement. I mean, They're not swatting Democrats. They're swatting conservatives. We all carry. So when your door gets busted down and you've got your gun on you, what's your instant reaction? Probably to shoot back.
Right. Now, how many? I know Cat Turd was, he's on Twitter as Cat Turd. Mm-hmm. You, him, who else was targeted?
Oh,
gosh, a bunch of you.
At least 20 of us now at this point. But, Matt Van Swall, a good friend from North Carolina, as well as Beard Vet in Nebraska, those were the 2 swatted the same night as me. For a while, there was going to be about 3 a night for about a week. So that was kind of the scale there for a little while. Then there was a break from the swattings, but there actually was 2 swattings this last week already now, so they're kind of rebooting up, it appears, which I'm thankful for Dan Bongino and Kash Patel's leadership on this. They were pretty right out of the gate, hey, we're going to put some resources on this. But after those 2 swattings recently hit, Dan Bongino has committed to double the resources to get to the bottom. So we're seeing good progress.
Has anybody been arrested in your case or in the other swatting incidents?
Without compromising the actual investigation, I do know some information that I won't make public at this time, but let's just say they're on a good track right now for figuring this out.
What happened to the Democrat Party? I mean, now they're the party of violence. The guy that firebombed Josh Shapiro's house, and he chose that room because they had the Seder dinner in there the night before, so he chose that room on purpose. Yeah. And he wanted to hit him in the head with a sledgehammer. Yeah. He's a Democrat, but he's pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, the unfortunate part about this, Amy, is that I think the Democrat Party's always been violent. Now, it's not been this prominent and not this open and accepted. I mean, we just had a raging Democrat go on Sean Hannity last night defending Luigi, I forget how to pronounce his last name, who actually killed the Minnesota native.
Brian Thompson. His name is Brian Thompson.
He's just 25 minutes down the road from where I live. And, they're celebrating this guy as a savior. So, this isn't new. We actually had a Minnesota conservative organization, a group of 4 of them, I think, in the same building. They were firebombed a couple of years ago here in Minnesota. We never heard Tim Walz speak out on that, never spoke out about my swatting or any of that stuff. Been very public. He knows about it. I can personally attest that he knows about it. But he made a statement about Shapiro, but not these other 2 scenarios where we were firebombed here in Minnesota or swatted in Minnesota. So it just makes you wonder, why do they speak up when it's only about a Democrat experiencing this violence? Which, by the way, it was Democrat on Democrat violence. So, only Democrats are actually also doing these things, which makes it just that much more incredible.
Yeah.
But, it's going to be a long road ahead here. But, ultimately, I'm at least thankful for the FBI's leadership on this. They're doing a good job. And hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this soon and, hopefully, honestly, just be able to tone down the flames a little bit on this rhetoric. But, it might be a long road, but we'll kind of see how it goes and just
Justin,
do our part on it.
Real quick, in a few weeks, are you ready for this? Governor Pritzker, Governor Hochul, and Governor Walz have been summoned to D.C. to testify in sanctuary states. Is your governor going to go? Because I don't think ours is. What a cast of clowns that would be, those three up there. Oh,
I think he will go. Although we are technically not a sanctuary state. We had a very slim one-vote majority in the Senate, and they just could. There was a couple of their senators that just could not bear that bullet because it would have been the end of their political career in greater Minnesota had they voted with it. So it thankfully failed here. But Tim Walz fully endorses it. If he didn't, Minnesota would have a net negative migration if it were not for illegal immigrants coming into this country. So, he fully endorses it. It's the only way he can even get new people into his state because they all just keep fleeing to Florida and Texas. So, we'll see how that goes. But I don't see a situation where Tim Walz ever ignores the camera. So we'll see how it goes.
And a free trip to Washington. He gets to go back. All right. Thank you, Dustin Grage. You can follow him at Twitter at Grage Dustin. He's also a columnist at townhall.com. Always a pleasure, Dustin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. Have a good one, guys.
You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
With over 3 decades of serving up streetwise insight and local perspective on Page 2, the voice of John Cass has a home at johncassnews.com. A place where common sense is still served daily.
Listen up. Do you like being treated as a chumbalone, as a fool, sitting on a stool, smiling wanly at the sky?
Don't be a chumbalone and subscribe at johncassnews.com.
I'm John Cass, 40 years a newspaper man in Chicago. I won't name the place, it's just the paper now.
That's the Chicago way.
But I'm asking you to join me so you can get a decent cup of common sense at least. You're not going to get it from the media. It's time that you join the frontier of independent journalism at johncassnews.com.
Don't get caught in the parade of chumbalones.
Traditional media, mainstream media like the paper, they're all in on it. They think you're